This evening we will continue, actually we will be finishing our study on angels, and we're just going to finish with a couple of questions. That will do us for now. Actually, we could continue this study for a little bit longer, but I don't think there's really a need to do that. But our first question is this, and it's one that's in popular notions, popular among many in the world, is the thought that when we die, when the righteous die, that the righteous become angels. And it's one of those things of, there are times when you don't, it's the wrong time to correct somebody. Someone has lost someone important in their life. It may be a child. And there's that notion that God wanted a special angel. All right. I'm not going to tell that person that they're wrong. Not then, I'm not. I'm not going to tell them that they're wrong. But we just ask the question, do we become angels? Well, let's go to Luke chapter 20. And in verse 34, that Jesus does tell us some things. And that when we die, humans die, what we become. And we're not given everything in this statement, but it does answer our question. And we will look here in Luke, and we'll also look in the book of Matthew. But Luke chapter 20 and verse 34, we have this statement. Jesus answered and said to them, "The sons of this age marry and are given in marriage." All right, now he's answering a question that's given by the Sadducees. Actually, it's a question that's meant to be a stumper. It's meant to be a logical dilemma that he would not be able to get out of. That's what they're hoping, because the Sadducees do not believe in the resurrection. And whereas the Pharisees do, the Sadducees do not. And they believe that they can kill the idea of and the teaching of the resurrection by this little poser, by this little riddle that they give. But it doesn't. He says, the sons of this age marry and are given in marriage. Well, what does that mean, the sons of this age? That means on this earth, at this point in time, that we marry and are given in marriage, but those who are counted worthy to attain that age, that would be heaven, and the resurrection from the dead, neither marry nor are given in marriage. Marriage is just here up on the earth. That's it. So at the resurrection, there is no marrying, there is no given in marriage. Verse 36, nor can they die anymore, for they are equal to the angels and are sons of God, being sons of the resurrection. So he is answering our question, do we become angelic beings? Now, he says we're going to be like them, and he says we will be equal to them and be sons of God. But he doesn't say, let's go now to Matthew chapter 22. Matthew 22, and we'll begin in verse 29. This is the same question. It's recorded by Luke. It's also recorded by Matthew. It's the same question given by the Sadducees, same event that occurred. Jesus answered and said to them, so it's Matthew 22, verse 29. That's where we're beginning. Jesus answered and said to them, "You are mistaken, not knowing the Scriptures nor the power of God. For in the resurrection they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels of God in heaven." So we are not angels, but we will be like them. In what way? Well, evidently in one way is that of not having the same sort of biology, and not any biology at all, I have a feeling, but not that at all of this earth, there is no marriage, there is no given in marriage, but we are like them and we are equal to them, but it does not say we are angels. It does not tell us that. Matter of fact, we can see from the writings of Paul of speaking about that resurrection. Let's go to, if you would, 1 Corinthians chapter 15. 1 Corinthians chapter 15. And we see some things here concerning that resurrection. And we'll begin in verse 35. So 1 Corinthians 15, verse 35. But someone will say, how are the dead raised up, and with what body do they come? Now, here is what he's going to say. We're not going to have this exactly what we had when we died. We're not going to have this same body at all. This body that we have returns to the earth, and that's where it stays. It returns to this earth. What we are given is something different than that. Verse 36, foolish ones, what you sow is not made alive unless it dies. And what you sow, you do not sow that body that shall be, but mere grain, perhaps wheat or some other grain. So he's making a comparison between that of death and the resurrection as that of like planting a seed and what grows from that seed. All right, you plant a grain of wheat, and what do you get from that? You don't get just a grain of wheat that's now above the ground. It's identical to what was there. But actually what grows does not look like that grain of wheat. It doesn't look like it. It is a shock of grass that's growing, and yes, it will have heads of grain on it, but it looks different than what you put in the ground. It looks different. Perhaps wheat or some other grain, verse 38, but God gives it a body as He pleases, and to each seed its own body. All flesh is not the same flesh, but there is one kind of flesh of men, another flesh of animals, another of fish, another of birds. There are also celestial bodies and terrestrial bodies, but the glory of the celestial is one, and the glory of the terrestrial is another. There is one glory of the sun, another glory of the moon, another glory of the stars, for one star differs from another star in glory. So also is the resurrection of the dead. The body is sown in corruption, it is raised in incorruption. It is sown in dishonor, it is raised in glory. It is sown in weakness, it is raised in power. It is sown a natural body, it is raised a spiritual body. There's a natural body and there's a spiritual body. And so it is written, the first man, Adam, became a living being. The last Adam became a life-giving spirit. However, the spiritual is not first, but the natural, and afterward the spirit. Then it continues on, the first man was of the earth, made of dust. The second man is the Lord from heaven. As was the man of dust, so also are those who are made of dust. That's us. And as is the heavenly man, so also are those who are heavenly. That's supposed to be us. But we get a choice in that one. And as we have borne the image of the man of dust, we shall also bear the image of the heavenly man. Does this tell us how we are going to appear after the resurrection? Not if we're going to appear. Obviously, the answer to that is yes, we are. How we appear? No. It does not say we're going to have white wings. It does not say that we're going to look a certain way at all. Matter of fact, Paul is saying he doesn't know what that will look like. He doesn't know what that would look like. And if we were to become like angels, then he would have said, we will appear as angels. But here's the problem with that. And there's a big one. That angels have different appearances. You have someone like Gabriel, who is described as the man Gabriel. Obviously, he looks like a man, but he also is identified as an angel, yet called the man Gabriel. He looks like that. But if we go to places like Isaiah chapter 6 in Revelation chapter 4, we see other creatures that they've got to be angelic. They are highly intelligent, highly powerful, they're around the throne of God, but you would not call them the man and then whatever their name happens to be. The man seraphim. They're seraphim, and they do not look like men at all. They don't have the same physique. They don't have the same appearance. And neither Isaiah nor John describe them as being like a man. Matter of fact, they have 6 wings. All right, I've not seen a man yet with 2, much less 6. And so saying that we become as angels would be a very difficult thing to envision, because there's different things. And cherubim have a different appearance than the seraphim have. And cherubim, you wouldn't describe them as human either, because the way they are described is also different. Now, we become like them, we become equal to them, but we're not them. How are we like them? One would be not given in marriage. There is no marriage on the other side. As opposed to our neighbors who think there is such a thing, there's not. All right? That there are no celestial marriages. That doesn't exist. Now, we come to this next bit, and I want to begin with a cautionary note to please, and I'm saying this for a reason, please pay attention, because there are times in the text where the word angel is used, but it does not mean angelic being. We may have spoke on this before, but now I want to bring it about again. I'm going to tell you why. Okay, Revelation chapter 2. We go there, and we just look at verse 1. Actually, let's go to 1 verse 1 first. Let's go there. The revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave him to show his servants things which must shortly take place. Okay, revelation of Jesus Christ, it belongs to him, which God gave Jesus to show his servants things which must shortly take place. So it would be future events. Okay, so the Father gave it to the Christ. And he, that is the Christ, sent and signified it by his angel to his servant John. So here is going from the Father to the Son to an angel to John, then to the rest of us. Okay, now that word angel there would mean angelic being. It would mean that. Someone like a Gabriel who is a messenger, and Gabriel's not the only messenger, but we know him by name. Now, we come to verse 2, and I just want to make mention also in, actually we'll get there in just a second. Okay, but we go to chapter 2, verse 1, to the angel of the church of Ephesus write. Now, I am reading from the New King James, and with the word angel, it gives me a little note there, little number 1, that says there's something in the center column. You may want to look at this, and it's messenger. To the messenger of the church of Ephesus write. All right, now, John is the one being commanded to write. He's the one that's being commanded to do this. We see that from chapter 1, what he's supposed to be doing. He is supposed to be writing the things that he saw, because we see from chapter 1 in verse 11, he says, this is Christ saying, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, and what you see, write in a book. So John is being commanded to write. Now, chapter 2, verse 1, it says, to the angel of the church in Ephesus, write. So is it now going from the Father to the Son to an angel to John to another angel? That would make no sense. It would be from the Father to the Son to the angel to John to a messenger, whoever that happens to be, at Ephesus. Now, some would immediately say that's the preacher. I think that's correct. And I don't think that's correct because I am a preacher. I think that's the correct answer. Some would say, no, the angel of the church at Ephesus is the eldership. Well, it's not plural, is it? So who would be the messenger that is of that eldership? It's not plural. So I think it would be, whatever it is, it's one person in that church. One person, and I just happen to think that it's the preacher. Now, I'm going to tell you why I'm emphasizing this. Because years ago, I spoke about how you take every word in context. And sometimes, like here, Revelation chapter 2, verse 1, the word that is translated angel may not be what you think of immediately as an angel. It may be something else. You have to take it in context because the word is messenger that's there, translated as angel. And because that's literally a transliteration of the Greek word, which is angelos. But you have, in speaking about that, weeks later, I had a man come to me and he said, I was talking to my son-in-law. His son-in-law is a preacher. And he said, where do you find that some angels aren't angels? And he was saying it like this was absolutely absurd because he wants to know, where are there angels that aren't angels? And I explained to him, I said, yeah, Revelation chapter 2, verse 1. And actually several places, in 7 in particular, in chapter 2 and chapter 3. All right, to the angel at Thyatira, right. To the angel at Smyrna, right. All right, and this would be actually a human living, a Christian living in those cities who's a member of the church there in that city. Now, we come to this. Let's go to chapter 22. We have mentioned this previously, but I want to look at it fully. All right, so Revelation chapter 22, we begin in verse 8. Revelation 22, verse 8. Now I, John, saw and heard these things, and when I heard and saw, I fell down to worship before the feet of the angel who showed me these things. Now, chapter 1, verse 1 said there was going to be an angel showing it to him. Chapter 1, verse 1 said that's exactly how it was going to be. And now he says he was falling down before the angel that showed him these things. Verse 9, then he said to me, that's that angel, see, you do not do that. For I am your fellow servant and your brethren, and of your brethren, the prophets, and of those who keep the words of this book, worship God. So this angel, who we know is going to be from the very beginning, chapter 1, verse 1 of Revelation, tells us there's an angel involved. Evidently, he sees this is the angel who's been showing him all these things, and he was going to worship that angel. And the angel said, don't do that. I'm just a fellow servant. Worship God. Meaning, he's not God. That angel is not God. Now, I said that now to go to Judges chapter 6. Judges 6. And we begin in verse 11. And this concerns Gideon. Verse 11. Now the angel of the Lord, so Judges 6, verse 11, now the angel of the Lord came and sat under the terebinth tree, which was in Ophrah, which belonged to Joash the Abiezrite, while his son Gideon threshed wheat in the winepress in order to hide it from the Midianites. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him and said to him, "The Lord is with you, you mighty man of valor." So the angel of the Lord appears before Gideon, says, "The Lord is with you." Literally, Jehovah is with you, you mighty man of valor. Gideon said to him, "O my Lord, if the Lord is with us, why then has this happened to us? And where are all his miracles which our fathers told us about, saying, did not the Lord bring us up from Egypt? But now the Lord has forsaken us and delivered us into the hands of the Midianites." Then the Lord turned to him and said, "Go in this might of yours, and you shall save Israel from the hand of the Midianites. Have I not sent you?" Did you notice what just happened in that verse? Because something just happened. We go from verse 11, the angel of the Lord, verse 12, the angel of the Lord, and now verse 14, then the Lord turned to him and said. Is this the angel of the Lord, or is this the Lord? Who is it? Is Jehovah there as well as the angel of Jehovah? Are they both there? I think we're going to see we're talking about one and the same. That the angel of the Lord is deity. Now, not always, and we're going to see that in a little bit, not always where we see the angel of the Lord will it mean deity. And some will say, and I am included in this, that the angel of the Lord is what is known as the pre-incarnate Christ. That is Christ before he was born on this earth. Personally, I believe that. If you don't believe that, that's entirely up to you. And that is okay. Some do, some do not. But verse 14, then the Lord turned to him and said, so he's responding. He's responding to this. And to turn to him means that he was present. He heard what was said and he responds to it. Verse 15, so he said to him, "O my Lord, how can I serve Israel? Indeed, my clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house." And the Lord said to him, "Surely I will be with you, and you shall defeat the Midianites as one man." Then he said to him, "If now I have found favor in your sight, then show me a sign that it is you who talk with me. Do not depart from here, I pray, until I come to you and bring out my offering and set it before you." And he said, "I will wait until you come back." So obviously, this is someone present. And someone, it's not like a disembodied voice that's here. Someone is present, and it is the angel of the Lord who is present. Verse 19, so Gideon went in and prepared a young goat and unleavened bread from an ephah of flour. The meat he put in a basket, and he put the broth in a pot, and he brought them out to him under the terebinth tree and presented them. Then the angel of God said to him, "Take the meat and the unleavened bread and lay them on this rock and pour out the broth." And he did so. Then the angel of the Lord put out the end of the staff that was in his hand and touched the meat and the unleavened bread, and fire rose out of the rock and consumed the meat and the unleavened bread, and the angel of the Lord departed from his sight. Now Gideon perceived that he was the angel of the Lord. So Gideon said, "Alas, O Lord God, for I have seen the angel of the Lord face to face." Then the Lord said to him, "Peace be with you. Do not fear. You shall not die." This does not sound like just a created being. An angelic being who is created just like us, who is doing the will of God. Because this angel of the Lord is doing more. And also in the text, it goes from angel of the Lord to the angel of God. All of them are the same person. It's referring to the same person. Now let's go to Genesis chapter 22. we're going to see something similar going on. Genesis chapter 22. And we begin in verse 14. And this is Abraham and the angel of the Lord. We're going to begin in verse 9. Abraham and the angel of the Lord. So Genesis 22, beginning in verse 9. Then they came to the place which God had told him, and Abraham built an altar there and placed the wood in order, and he bound Isaac his son and laid him on the altar upon the wood. So he's doing precisely what he's called to do. He's to sacrifice Isaac. He's been traveling to the place where he's supposed to make the sacrifice. He and Isaac now go to that place. Everything is put in order, and it's time to sacrifice Isaac, and that's what he's going to do. At least try. Verse 10, and Abraham stretched out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. So he said, Here I am. And he said, Do not lay your hand on the lad or do anything to him, for now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. The angel of the Lord said that. Someone like a Gideon or even a Michael, who's an archangel, could not say the words, You have not withheld your son, your only son, from me, because they don't play a part in it. It wasn't their demand, and their demands are meaningless anyway. It's only what's from God. And here, this has to be someone higher than a Michael or a Gabriel or any other angel we may have a name for. Much higher than that. Then Abraham lifted his eyes and looked, and there behind him was a ram caught in a thicket by its horns. So Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up for a burnt offering instead of his son. And Abraham called the name of the place, The Lord Will Provide, as it is said to this day, in the mount of the Lord it shall be provided. Then the angel of the Lord called to Abraham a second time out of heaven and said, Notice what he says, because it says again, the angel of the Lord called Abraham and said, verse 16, By myself I have sworn, says the Lord, because you have done this thing and have not withheld your son, your only son, blessing I will bless you, and multiplying I will multiply your descendants as the stars of heaven and as the sand which is on the seashore. And your descendants shall possess the gate of their enemies. In your seed all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice. So Abraham returned to his young men, and they rose and went together to Beersheba, and Abraham dwelt at Beersheba. All right, so here that the angel of the Lord is saying a lot of things that an angel just cannot say. Making promises, an angel cannot promise. And making demands, an angel cannot demand. But God can. God is the one that told him to take Isaac and sacrifice him, and just an angel, and I mean a mere angel, a created being, saying you've obeyed my voice? No. It's God who is saying that. And it's the angel present as what is known as the angel of the Lord. Now, let's note a distinction. Let's go to 1 Chronicles, if you will. 1 Chronicles chapter 21. And this goes in with taking everything by way of context, by way of what is being said. And do we have some kind of clue that's put in? As we did earlier in the book of Judges, where we go from angel of the Lord to angel of God. All right, and it's talking about the same person. It's not talking about three people who happen to be there. It's talking about the same person. The angel of the Lord is called those three things there in the book of Judges. And in Genesis, that angel of the Lord is saying that Abraham obeyed his will. 1 Chronicles chapter 21, and we begin in verse 14. And this is concerning what David did. Yeah, we'll just read verse 1. So 1 Chronicles 21, verse 1. Now Satan stood up against Israel and moved David to number Israel. All right. And that's something he wasn't supposed to do. And actually, you have Joab that tells him he doesn't want to do it. And it's not a thing they should be doing. And realistically, they held back. There were certain things they didn't number. But the attempt at it and David's insistence at it brings sin into the nation. And David sees that once again, his actions can be devastating to the nation he is supposed to be ruling. Verse 14, now, so the Lord sent a plague upon Israel, and 70,000 men of Israel fell. And God sent an angel to Jerusalem to destroy it. As he was destroying, the Lord looked and relented of the disaster and said to the angel who was destroying, "It is enough. Now restrain your hand." And the angel of the Lord stood by the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite. Okay, so here is someone also called the angel of the Lord, but this does not look like it is the same one we saw from Judges 6 and Genesis 22. This looks different because we have a distinction being made of God speaking directly to that angel, and that angel stops. That angel immediately responds. Then David lifted his eyes and saw the angel of the Lord standing between earth and heaven, having his hand in his hand a drawn sword stretched out over Jerusalem. So David and the elders, clothed in sackcloth, fell on their faces. And David said to God, "Was it not I who commanded the people to be numbered? I am the one who has sinned and done evil indeed. But these sheep, what have they done? Let your hand, I pray, O Lord my God, be against me and my father's house, but not against your people, that they should be plagued." Therefore the angel of the Lord commanded Gad to say to David that David should go and erect an altar to the Lord on the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite. Now, this to me sounds like something different, someone different that we have. And now, I'm not the only one thinking that. The translators of the New King James think the same thing, but I'm not. There's a number of times I don't agree with what the translators did. There's a number of times I don't. But I think they do see a distinction here. And that here is someone known as the angel of the Lord, but this is not God in some sort of angelic form. Coming down upon the earth like in Genesis 22 and Judges 6, of where it's obvious in those two instances that you are in fact talking to God, and He is in a form that a human can look at. And as I said, everything is going to be taken by way of context. Sometimes we can read through verses and never really see. We just glide right through and miss something that's actually been said. Just miss it. And sometimes there could be, like in the book of Zechariah, there is a repeated pattern that is there. And you can miss some things because you think, okay, it's just repeating that pattern. But then all of a sudden, there's a different meaning in that pattern. And this has nothing to do with angelic beings. And I've shown that before on occasion, but there's no need for this lesson. But that the fact is of looking and studying, and what are the words saying? And that's how we're going to get the meaning behind any kind of Scripture, is to understand the words, putting the words all together, the message all together, putting it together, and then we get a picture that is there. All of these lessons are just a way of what has been shown to us about angelic beings who we will not see while alive, unless Christ returns while we're still alive, while we're still here. That we won't see them here. They're here, all right, and we've seen that. There are still watchers. There are those that they see what's happening on the earth. And there is a host of them. And they serve God as we're supposed to serve God, now just in a different capacity. We can't do what they do. We're in a different capacity. But they also will return. They'll be here with Christ and be part of judgment. From what we have seen from Christ's teaching on this, when it comes to Judgment Day, it is those angels who are going to be that make that separation, and we can see that from the teaching of Christ. They're going to be doing it. They're going to be involved in judgment. They're going to be involved. They're not the judge. They're servants. But they're going to be involved in that. And that there is with the smoke of their torment arises forever, and it is Christ and His angels who see that. They watch that happen. This evening, judgment, this life is a serious matter, and we need to take it seriously with a sober mind, considering our lives, considering what we should be doing. The ignorant do not need to be ignorant anymore. The simple do not need to be simple anymore. As we have been reading from the book of Proverbs, the fool does not need to remain a fool and doesn't have to. Every one of us can be among the wise and doing the wise thing of following God. It's simplicity itself. I don't have to figure out my way of salvation. God's already done it. He's already done it for me. And it works for me. It works for you. It worked in the first century. It works for everyone, everywhere. We ask this evening, if you need to respond to the invitation, that you come as we stand and sing.